Louisiana couple's son has spent the last 10 years in a prison in China trying to bring him home. Nelson Wells Jr. was arrested in China on drug charges. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 2014. That sentence was commuted to life in prison, which was then reduced to 22 years without the benefit of time served. His parents, Nelson Sr. and Cynthia Nelson, have depleted their life savings trying to bring their son home. They join me now in studio along with Joi Chaney. Glad to have all three of you here. So first, what was your son doing in China?
He went over there to try to get some medical help because he has been suffering with seizures. He was hit while leaving work, going home, and a guy came up the one-way street. He was on a moped, and he suffered severe injuries. He broke his leg, his arm, and the most significant thing was he hit his head, and he developed seizures from that. So upon his medical recommendation, they wanted to try to see if they can get some medication that can control these seizures. And his physician told him to go over there and talk to, some of the Chinese doctors over there that might have something that would be able to help him.
Now, when he got hit, that took place here or in China?
In Japan.
In Japan?
In Japan.
So he got hit in Japan, and his doctors in Japan told him, try to go to China to see if there's some medication to help.
Right. That's basically how it all started.
All right, so he goes to China, and then what happened?
Well, now this is where it gets tricky. While he's in China, we are only told by the Chinese government what happened. So while he's there, it doesn't work out for him. He's coming home. And in the process of coming home, there was an individual that I guess Nelson knew or possibly met. And they became associates or whatever the case may be. I haven't gotten his story as of yet. I was unable to get his story because he hasn't been able to tell me anything, because if he does, our phone calls will be disconnected. So we keep it generic.
Meaning Nelson?
Yes.
Okay. So you haven't talked to this friend?
No, we don't even know who he is.
Okay.
Never met him, don't know anything about him, nothing at all.
Okay.
So anyway, this particular friend had excessive baggage. And so what he did is he asked Nelson to help him get his baggage on board. And so Nelson said, okay, no problem. So in the process of that, they both go through the gates together, and when he goes through the gates, Nelson gets stopped, he goes through. The drugs was in his suitcase, but Nelson was the one that was bringing it through.
What was the drugs?
To this day, I'm not good on drugs, but the drug that I think it was meth.
Okay.
That's what I think it was.
Okay.
And it was a significant amount, and it was inside of baked goods, like pies and cakes and all of these things. And Nelson, the guy told Nelson that he wanted him, this was for his family, and he wanted to bring these gifts and everything along with other gifts that was in there. Nelson never looked in the suitcase.
So Nelson never looks in the suitcase, doesn't know any of this. Nelson gets stopped, his friend continues forward.
Continues forward. And when that happened, Nelson was like, what's the matter? What's going on? This portion we did get from him. And so it was kicks because the way it went down, Mr. Martin, is when he was over there, we didn't know that this had happened at all, period. And the only way that we were informed is a young man called us. It was like 2:30, 3:30 in the morning. And we was heavily in sleep. And when the phone rang, I said, Cynthia, Red, the phone is ringing. The phone is ringing. So she answered it, and the young man says, is this the Wells? And I told them, he said, yeah. And she put it on speaker. And he said, I'm associate of Nelson. I know him. He's in trouble. He's been incarcerated. They want to kill him. Do you have money? And I was like, what? He said, hurry up. He needs help. Get him out. And he hung up. And so Cynthia and I, we thought it was a prank or a scam. And so we couldn't go back to sleep. Now, he resides in Japan, and his wife and his family and everybody's over there. So because we were so nervous about the phone call, we actually called his wife and asked, did Nelson go to China? And she said he did. And in the process of that, well, now we thinking, this might not be a prank. It might not be a scam. So at this point, we decide that let's look into this. So we called the embassy, the Chinese embassy, and we say, look, we believe that our son may be incarcerated.
Chinese embassy where?
In Beijing, I believe it was, we called it. Yeah, I think it was Beijing. And we asked them, we said, listen, we believe that our son has been detained. We need you all to find out and verify, is this true? So the embassy went to searching for him, and they called us back and said, well, we don't have him. We don't know anything about it. So a couple of weeks went by, and after all these weeks went by, we started saying, well, we haven't heard from him, and he calls us all the time. He don't miss special occasions. And so our wedding anniversary go by, and we don't have no phone call from him. So it's like, okay, something is not right. Mm-hmm. So we inquired again, and still yet they don't have anything. So Cynthia, at this point, start using outside channels. We find him. And in the process of finding him, then we verify that this is true with Mr. John Cam, who's in San Francisco. He said he's not on my list, but he is there. So we then, in turn, forward this information to the embassy. The embassy goes find him. And as they find him, they come back and say, yeah, this is true. He's there. And we will do whatever we can to help y'all in this process. So at that point, Nelson is in the detention center. And I think 6 months go by, we are not in contact with him at all. So eventually, after about another 3 months, we finally get a phone call from Nelson, and he says, Mom, he says, Mom, Pop, I didn't do this. Help me. I'm in trouble. Get me out of here. And at that point, my whole life changed. So now this is a reality. This is no game. We have no political contacts. I don't know what I'm gonna do to help my child. I feel helpless, weak. You know, so we get back in touch with the embassy, and we ask them to give us all the support and assist. We ask them, well, is there some lawyers y'all can help us out with? And this is kind of hard for Mr. Martin, so bear with me. He says, you tell me, they said, no, we can't do anything like that. All we could do is give you a list, and y'all can go from there. So Cynthia and I, we go down that complete list, and the lawyers that we're speaking with, you know, their language is English is, you know, it's a barrier. Mm-hmm. So as we going back and forth, they say, well, send this, send that. We sent pretty much all our savings to lawyers. Some didn't do anything. Some just...
Now, lawyers there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Chinese.
So you're paying for lawyers there?
Correct.
All right. While this is happening, first of all, where are you in Louisiana?
We live right now in Houghton, Louisiana, which is in Bossier, Shreveport area.
Are you communicating with your member of Congress,
yes.
your 2 United States senators, yes. And what are you getting from them?
Well, to this day, it took us a long, hard road to get to them. We notified them about everything that had been going on, and it through hard work. And Ms. Dominique Ben, who's a reporter with KLSA, she took us an interview, and our word got out. So
now hold on. Before that, I take it you're calling, you're emailing, you're writing, and
no help.
Your members of Congress are not responding?
Nobody. We were out there on our own. It was like we were in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and nobody threw us a life raft. That's it. So we were out there with no experience, none of this stuff. But it didn't last that way forever. It only lasted like that for about, 8 years? And it's a long story, Mr. Martin.
It took 8 years for y'all to, to connect with them, for them to listen?
Yes, yes.
$80,000.
Yes. So with that being
Say
said,
it again, you said how much?
Over $80,000.
I depleted my savings, $80,000. I'm a retired veteran and disabled vet, and I was living comfortably until this happened. I told you, my whole life changed.
So bring Joi in here. So Joi, you then, how do you come into this story?
So Mark Morial, I was working, and I've been on your show before. I was working for Mark and Mr. Wells are lifelong friends. Mr. Wells had reached out to Mark. At the time I worked for him, he asked me to do some work on it. And then I continued working on it. And even after I left the Urban League, I took them on as pro bono clients, along with a man named Peter Humphrey, who he and his wife had been in a Chinese prison from Britain, and they were released. And so Peter has dedicated his life to helping other families not feel so alone and to navigate this quagmire. It's very difficult. So with him in London and me in the United States here in Washington, D.C., and with so many friends that have come from that, including new friends, Angelo Greco, others, we have been making some traction.
Yes.
And when we say make some traction,
Yeah,
how so?
let me tell you about it. So this week we're in D.C. and we're meeting with our members of Congress. The Wells's congressman happens to be Mike Johnson, who is now Speaker.
Whoa. You remember Congress, the Speaker of the House?
Yes.
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 How fortuitous.
Yes.
And then, of course, our two senators from Louisiana, Senator Kennedy and Senator Cassidy. The attention from the press and others, and Ms. Dominique Benn certainly focused everyone's attention on this case. And with that, we were able to get responses. And now we have our senators, as well as others, including Troy Carter. Everyone is focused, and we are starting to get high-level conversations with the State Department, with others in the Chinese, in the People's Republic of China, and others to try to see what kinds of negotiations, what kinds of conversations can happen to help Nelson.
Have y'all actually sat and met with Speaker Johnson?
No, but what I can say
Not in
is this.
person, but.
But what I can say is this. Before Speaker Johnson became Speaker Johnson, he called me personally on the phone, and we had a 2.5 hour conversation. And in that conversation, he understood what I was asking for, and he promised me. He said, I will do everything in my power to assist you and your family in bringing your son home.
Have y'all had direct conversation with both United States senators?
We have. So today we met with Senator Cassidy in person in his office.
The first time y'all met with him?
Yes.
It is the first time.
So in 10 years, this is the first time you met with one of your two United States senators?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
This is true.
What about Kennedy?
Not
Not
as
in
of yet.
person. Not
in person. But we
have
have
been working
spoke
with
with
their
his staff.
No, have you talked to him?
No, sir.
Not Kennedy.
So in the decade, you haven't talked to Kennedy, you're here. Is his office setting up time for y'all to meet with him?
We're working on it. We've met with his staff. And, you know,
No, that's the staff. I'm talking about him.
We hope to meet with Senator Kennedy soon. But we did meet with Senator Cassidy. We've had long conversations with Speaker Johnson. And I know you might say, well, why am I not holding their feet to the fire?
No. I'm just putting it out because I want to understand all of the details.
Those are the details
here. And so
we have not met with Kennedy.
Gotcha. All right. So what are your conversations? Who are you dealing with at state?
We are working with the counselor. The Consular Affairs. We don't give names, but we have been working with our State Department officials, with American Citizen Services, with the Office of Consular Affairs in the State Department, and others. But I think the point is it has taken 10 years to get this type of traction. And for those out there wondering, what does this have to do with you? You could be traveling anywhere in the world, and if something happens to you, especially in a country where our diplomatic relations are not always the strongest, you could be out there on your own. There is not a lot of recourse for you. And we've had to make everything up on our own, generating our own press, generating our own interest. And it's not like someone immediately comes and says, here, I want to help. We have a website, nelsonwellsjr.com. I encourage you all to take a look at it. Hopefully you all will put it in the notes. And we, have a GoFundMe page and more about our story there. But it has taken 2 years of my dedicated work, Mark's dedicated work, but 10 years of this family's prayers and dedication to even get to the point we are at right now.
Well, the reason I was asking those questions because go to my iPad about 18 years ago, when Dallas Austin was arrested for a small amount of drugs in Dubai. They were going to throw him in prison for a very long time. And it was then Utah Senator Orrin Hatch, Quincy Jones, and Lionel Richie who were able to intervene. And so that's what I was trying to understand in terms of who have y'all been dealing with, communicating with, on this. And it's still, I'm glad you're having the conversations now, but it still is crazy to me that a decade goes and you're not here, you're not getting response from the people who are elected. And this is the thing that I'm always trying to explain to our audience. It doesn't matter if you voted Democratic and the member of Congress and the 2 United States Senators are the Republicans. You are still constituents.
You're their constituents.
And they still are there to represent you and to speak for you. And so that is crazy. And so, go ahead.
And can I just say, Mr. Wells is a veteran. Many decades. Mrs. Wells is a veteran of the civil service working for DOD. These good Americans have served their country. You shouldn't even have to have all that to have your members respond to you. But certainly once you have done all that, your members ought to respond to you. And it took, what we haven't mentioned is that Nelson has been sick, over there. This has taken a tremendous toll on him, as you can imagine.
At any point in these 10 years, have y'all traveled there to see him?
Not yet.
If you do, are you allowed to see him?
Well, it's going to take a lot of negotiation for us to have the permission to go, but there have been other people that have been able to go, and it was brought up to our attention today if we would be interested in going.
No, when you say other people, other cases or other people who've seen your son?
Other cases.
Got it. So you talk. How often do you talk to him on the phone?
Yeah.
Wow. When we first started this, we wasn't talking to Nelson at all. Period. After about first of all, I have to explain. Nelson's in the detention center, and that's one of the worst places to be while you're over in China. So once he was able to get out of the detention center, which he had to voluntarily say, in order to get out of there, to be able to, get the things that he needed.
He had to admit guilt?
He had to plead guilty,
sir. Yes, sir. So he admitted the guilt. And in the process of admitting the guilt, now he's incorporated into the prison system. And while he's there, they are allowing him to make phone calls to us now.
How often?
It started off where we would get a phone call like once every 6 months.
And what is it now?
Now it's a lot better. We're getting calls. If I would say he would get calls maybe once a month or once every 2 months.
And his wife and child, how many children does he have?
He has 3, 2 by his first wife and 1 by his second wife.
And his second wife and that child, they're still in Japan?
Yes, all of them are still in Japan.
Okay, all 3 kids are still in Japan.
Yes, sir.
What's next?
What's next is we're going to let these high-level conversations play out, and we're going to keep their feet to the fire. We have regular communication. Nelson is waiting to have them return home. He's saving up his time so he can call them next week. We look forward to updating you on some of those conversations. We've had some hopeful conversations this week. It made a difference to be in person.
Right.
And to have communications with people, but it is heartbreaking to think what it has required for us to get here.
Yes.
Our attention has meant that Nelson has gotten more frequent visits by American Citizen Services in Beijing. But let me tell you, if you're overseas and you get caught in this situation,
right,
you get to know a officer. Every year and a half, they change out. Very hard on prisoners. How many people have you all met over the years, ACS officers?
Probably at least 8.
Maybe 10. Maybe 10.
When that happens, you have to almost start over.
Because it's every 6 months to a year. And Nelson's been there 10 years.
Yeah.
So we understand, and we're about to wrap up here.
Yeah.
So he was arrested in 2014.
Yes, sir.
When was the sentence reduced to 22 years?
2019.
And those 5 years, there was no time served.
No time served.
Yeah.
So from 2019, you got to add. So you're talking about
He'll be released
2042.
2041. He'll be released in 2041.
He'll be almost 70 years old at that point, which
Wow.
that is, and then for someone who's been ill, that is not likely that he would, and I hate to say that in front of his parents, but we know this. We are fighting for his life. We are fighting for Nelson Wells Jr.'s life, and we really need you all to fight for his life as well. I really would love for you all to take a look at our website, nelsonwellsjr.com, figure out a way that you can help this family. And also, we need your prayers.
Yes.
We need your prayers. We'll take that too. We'll take that too.
Final comments.
I'm just thank everyone that has helped us this far with the prayers, the monetary donations, the work that they've put in. But we just got to keep pushing because, like Nelson said, Mom, if you don't hurry, I'ma die. I don't want to die here. So please help him to get back home. I've never met 2 of his children, so we would love to come meet them. You know, it's just been a long journey, and of course we had to close our mouth with the threats. You know, don't talk about it. So that too played a part on, you know, getting it out public. But just continue to pray and go to our website, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roland. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. Certainly keep us abreast of what happens, and we certainly hope this comes to conclusion and you'll be able to see your son, Nelson, as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
All right, we appreciate it.